Welcome to live stream number 124th. My name is Lars Christensen, and today's topic is understand mirror and some cool construction tools. It is January 30th, 2018. Good to be back from being off for last week. New time here for these live streams, so I hope that kind of like fits in some people's schedule, hopefully. See, we already got Isaac here. It's absolutely awesome that Isaac was able to do it. DJ, absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping in to these live streams. And also, of course, if you're watching the recording, appreciate it. So, all right. Today we're going to talk about understanding the mirror command. And then, as I sometimes do, I want to just kind of like throw in some experiences that I have had with it in the past, so if I can kind of like pass that on. That is what these live streams are about, by the way. If you, now we have a new hour, you might be, jumping in for the first time. Just trying to add a little bit more value to your Fusion 360 experience. Bam! Let's get going here. So, there is two places when we're talking about mirroring inside of Fusion. There is under the sketch tool, you will find a mirror command under that one. And if you go into the create, you will find a mirror inside of there too. So two different places to do this. So let's just start out by, they're a little bit different. They do the same thing, but they're a little bit different. So let's start out with the sketching environment. So we're going to create a new sketch, and I'm just going to sketch on one of these faces. Doesn't really matter. So let me just go ahead here and do something. I don't know. Now I'm going to try to be a little bit creative. So I'm going to start the line command, and I'm just going to sketch a, kind of like maybe an L here. Something like this here. So a line here and here. And of course, it's totally blue, right? We can see that we have some constraints already added in here. Somebody just asked me about that the other day. Fusion will insert constraints automatically when you draw these things up. Now we can use these constraints over here. So I might just go over here and say I want this point here to be horizontal with this line, and you will see that now get brought in like that. I could also say I want this vertical. Same command does both. But you will see, of course, that they're still blue. So now we could maybe use some dimensions, some D for dimension. And let's just put a dimension on this one here. Let's make it 50 by 50. And just like that, we can see that we now have the sketch fully constrained. Now, just to add a little bit more pizzazz to this part, I'm gonna add a C for circle, and let's just place a 25 millimeter circle in the center here. Now that one, of course, is also blue because it floats around. So let's just fully define that one. Back to the origin, and I'm using the origin. Generally, your origin in here should really be kind of like your nail in space, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so what we have now is we have a circle. That's one entity, and we have two lines. That's two other entities. So three entities in this thing here. Now let's talk a little bit about the first mirror command, the sketch mirror sitting down here. So if you're never familiar with this one, the sketch mirror, if I click on this one, you will see that it has two functions. It's looking for the objects, so what do you want to mirror, and then a line to mirror over. So as soon as you see that, then you now got to think a little bit, because you're going to be like, okay, so I need something to mirror over in this case here. So let me just cancel out of that and figure something out here. So I'm going to go up and click another line, and I'm just going to close this box up like here. Now, as soon as I do that, you will see that it shows us that it's fully enclosed by the color change. These two lines that I just added is actually what I want to use as mirror components. Now, you can leave them solid like we just did. However, if they are just for reference, you might find it easier to turn them into construction lines. So if somebody else looks at the lines later on, they will know that they're just kind of like a reference. There's two ways you can do that. One is you can select the line and hit X on your keyboard, for a xylophone. Another thing you can do is you can select the line, you can go over here and you can click construction. So now if you look at this drawing, you will see that these two lines are construction, what tells us that they are like references. Okay, so with that, now let's go back into the mirror command. Again, I told you objects. So if I select this line, and the circle, now I have these reference lines to mirror over. So let me click up here so it gets blue. Select this line. And now you will see that I get kind of like a repetition or a mirror of these lines down here. Now let me just go ahead here and hit OK. So you can see that Fusion is smart enough to actually add, well, what's simple is this? Well, you can always, if you wonder what these different symbols really means, just go over here and look at them over here, and it says that this is symmetry. So Fusion is smart enough that when we mirror these lines over, it created symmetry relationships with these. What means, of course, that if we go in and we start changing dimensions, then the symmetry will come along. Now, just because I don't like to do one thing once, repetition is learning repetition is key in all learning compared to Six Sigma. Let's do one more sketch mirror. So if I go over here, select the mirror again, we can select our objects. Now you could also just, in this case, maybe just be a little lazy, and you could window select all the items. So now we're up to 13. Select the line you want to mirror over, and then if you select our other line, you will now see that we get a representation over here. When we hit OK, same thing, that we get this symmetry thing here. Okay, so this is really a way to go ahead and use. You can use sketch mirroring to do things. Now, you could probably have sketched this up quicker by just sketch a rectangle and 4 holes, but I think you get what I'm talking about here. And of course, everything is parametric. We change something, one dimension, another dimension, and we could control the whole shape from within here. Now, just to have some fun with this, I'm going to hit Q for press pull, and I'm just going to select the inside here. And let's just add a little bit of thickness, 20 millimeters. And we now have kind of like created something, whatever you think that this might should be. So while we're at this mirroring, right now, if we turn on the origin, you will see that we have an origin. Our origin is cutting right through the center here. So I could be tempted to go in and add a fillet to this. So I'm going to hit F for fillet. And I'm just going to, just to show this, I'm going to select this edge and select this edge, right? And then add some kind of a fillet to it. Let's make it 5. Now you could go into the other mirror. What is this one here? So the first one we just used is all in sketches, right? Back to sketches down here. The other one here works in mirror. I'm going to show you a neat trick in a minute. So if I select the mirror from the drop-down, create drop-down to mirror, we could go over here, and you will see we get a lot more different options over here. I've said this before. One of my favorite is to select features. And if we select features for in either mirroring patterning, you can just go down and select the feature down here, and that will just kind of like select them. You could, of course, also, because this is only 2, you could also select faces, and you could just go in here and select these 2 faces here. The mirror plane, now we're not looking for a line anymore. Now we are looking for a face or a plane. So we're going to select, I want to show you both. So we're going to select this mirror plane. I can go up here, and I can actually select that mirror that cuts right through that body right there. And if we hit OK, you will now see that it mirrored them across that mirror plane right there and across to there. So that's another way you could kind of use the mirror command, we selected 2 fillets and we mirrored it over here. Again, same thing, that now if we go and we edit those 2 fillets, then it will carry through to the mirrored components. So, I hope this is kind of useful. Now, let me just show you a couple of tricks and a couple of, like, I don't know if tricks is the right thing. A couple of, I like to use examples where I've kind of like screwed up myself. So let's go in on the top here and create a new sketch up on top on this part here. And I'm going to create some text. So let's just go over to the sketch drop down. Let's create the text. We're going to place the text somewhere. I'm just going to place it somewhere. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to type in, let's type in Fusion. That's why we're here. By the way, so this looks pretty good, but let me just hit OK. By the way I normally work with this is you can right click on the text and hit Move Copy, and that's how I would normally kind of like place whatever text you want. If you're asking me, this is also where you can rotate it and do different things. But I'm okay with where this is right here. Let's place it right there. Take that text, let's cut it into the part here, and let's just go minus, I don't know, 2 millimeters. And now we have some kind of a cut. Let me just turn the origin off for a second. So now we got this fusion cut here. Now I want to show you a mistake that I have done quite a bit, because now we're looking at this fusion, and I want it on the other side too. And I used to do a lot of CNC machining, and where you got to do like engraving and things like that. And you're like, all right, I'm just going to mirror this over on the other side. Now, the first problem we're going to run into here is that we learned before that we need a plane or a face to mirror over. And since the way I sketched this up, my plane is actually at the bottom, right? And I probably, if I want to mirror this over on the other side, I need a plane in the center of this part. Well, there's different ways you can do this, but here's one of the cool construction tool tricks. You should really get familiar with what is in here, in this drop down if you're not. So let me show you the mid plane. So if I select this, it looks for 2 planes or faces. So I'm going to select the top face, spin around, the bottom face, and look what the mid plane command does. Puts a plane right dead center of this part. This is perfect. This is exactly what Lars wants. So I'm going to hit OK, and I hope you can see that there. So that midpoint I found right under construct. If I went a little bit too fast, rewind back and see this. So what Lars have done many times is he's like, okay, I got this. Go to the mirror command, right? And this time, see, here's a perfect example where I don't want to use faces. If I got to select this fusion, that's way too much selection. So I'm just going to go down and select features and go down and select that extrude we used, right? Haha, perfect. Select the mirror plane. That's going to be that mid plane we created. That is absolutely amazing. And then hit OK. But it does what it's supposed to. It mirrors. Dang it. That's not what I wanted, right? It mirrors, like if you're looking yourself in the mirror, it mirrored that text over on the other side. What we actually want here is we actually want to rotate it. We don't want to mirror it. So I just wanted to show you this. Well, that gets me to show you another cool tool. So if we need to, instead of mirror this, instead of using the mirror, we can actually use this circular pattern instead. Okay? So let me just delete this mirror because that was not what I wanted. But now I need to rotate this text. Then I need something to rotate about. We need some kind of an axis to rotate about. I'm going to run into the same problem if I decided I want to try to use the red or the green axis right here. That's again at the bottom of my part. Actually, I should have had everything in the center, right? Here's another neat trick. It's construction. And down here, there is axes through 2 planes. Because we have the plane we just created, the 45, and then we have this other plane right in here that we can use to throw an axis through. So let's do that. Construction, axis through 2 planes. Select this first plane, the one we just created, and then I'm just going to select this plane in here, and just like that, I get an axis right through there. Okay? So, you know, sometimes when you're modeling, and I understand, especially if you're fairly new, this can cause a lot of confusion, the steps I'm going through right now, but I hope that you just, I'm trying to take you through like the thought process where you run into an issue and you're like, oh, you know, maybe I should actually have had the planes in the center. Well, let me just work around it. And that's where a lot of these tricks up here, these tools up here are extremely helpful. Okay, so now instead of using mirror, instead of go down and say circular pattern, I'm going to again change faces because I'm lazy. I don't want to pick all these faces. To features, select again that extrusion. Now I'm going to revolve around an axis, and that's going to be that center line we just created. Now by default, I want to do 3. I only actually want 2, right? I want the one I have, and then I want the other one on the other side. And now I got what I was after. Okay? So I hope that this kind of like shows you a couple of tricks, the mirroring command, and then also how you can use the pattern command. Okay, it's good to be back, man. Really appreciate you guys taking the time for checking out these live streams. So let's make another question I get from time to time. I want to show you another trick, and that is if you let's change this part a little bit. You know what? We all are familiar with the kind of like the history tree down here, right? So let me just roll all the way back to kind of like where we extruded this one. And what I'm going to do is when we selected the profile, we selected all these holes. But I'm actually going to select this upper right one here and hit OK. So now that one is kind of missing. But if I turn the sketch back on, you can see that the hole kind of like still exists. If I open another sketch, create sketch, and I hit Q, I should actually be able to select that. Now I want to do it as another cut, but we can actually go in and say as another join. That's just another way to do things, right? Let's make it 40. So what I got now, hide these sketches, is I kind of changed the shape of our part to have 3 holes and then have kind of like a male piece sticking out here. Let's roll all the way to the end, and we can see we're back to where we were before. So one question I get from people and this one kind of excites me. I hope that this one is useful for you. Is you create a file here, and let's just save this file. And let's call it right version. And of course, this is extremely simplistic, right? So now somebody says, all right, I have this model. Now I need to make a left version of the exact same part. Isn't there a way where I can achieve that? And there actually is. So what you can do is we have the right version. We can go back into our mirror command. Now this time I'm not going to select the feature. I'm actually going to select the entire body. So the entire thing. And then my mirror plane, you've seen me so far just hit the planes, but you can actually also select the face. And now I'm creating a mirror, and a left version. Now of course my text, it's gonna be mirror 2, but that's how that goes. You of course can go back in and change that. But now we have a left version. What I'm ending up with is 2 bodies now. So 2 different bodies. We have the first body and we have the second body. So what you can do now is you can right click, and this is important. You kind of would think you have 2 choices. You can either delete or you can remove. You want to select remove. And the reason you want to select remove is that the delete function inside of Fusion has some intelligence behind it, where it's trying to figure out how to heal after you delete something. Let me show you what it does. That's probably actually easier. So if I go in now and say I'm going to delete this body, Fusion will actually give me a warning that says that, wait a minute, if you delete this body, this body is referenced other places, and then it's going to try to heal it the best it can. And what you end up with is this. And actually at the bottom, issues down here. So Fusion is doing its best to try to heal things. Now, there's other times, I'm going to do a Control-Z. There's other times where delete is perfect. But for this case here, right-click and hit remove, and we get a feature down here that is removed. What means if I'm rolling back once, see that's the body is? So remove actually adds a feature down here, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, instead of just going up and say save, then I'm saving the right one, I can go out and say save as, and now this, of course, is going to be the left version. Okay, save that. So now we have a left version. I'll have to go in and correct the text. So we have a left version, and now we have a right version. So that's the way that you can go ahead. So here's the right version, the first one we created, and here is the left version then we created. Now, if you're asking me, how do I get this to be right? Well, you gotta remember that if I roll back even in the left version, it still remembers everything where things are coming from. So I would probably, I don't know what is actually the easiest thing. The easiest thing would probably be to actually go back to, in this version, because it's my version, right? I could go ahead here and just right click, and I could choose to suppress, I don't know if you knew that, the text. There's got to be the text here. Right click, and was that the text or was this the text? This was the text. Right click, and you could say suppress, and now it's like we suppress that feature. So now you see the text is gone, and then I would probably just go in, create a new sketch, draw that out, and mirror that over. But that's a way that you can create right and left versions. All right, guys. Really appreciate you guys. We have 80 people in here. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy day to join these live streams. So, yes, you have probably discovered that this is a little bit different time slot. I hope it works for some of you guys. If not, then it is still going to be a recording up on YouTube. Tomorrow, same time, it's going to be on Facebook. So on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., doing the Absolute Beginner Series on Facebook. We're going to continue doing that. So that's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And then on Thursday, 8 p.m., back here on YouTube, we're going to do CAM. We're going to talk about using stock, so stock options inside of Fusion 360. The reason for this big change, if you haven't heard, I am going on parental leave. This is an awesome company, giving me some time off to be with my new daughter. So that's why I'm moving these to 8 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday on YouTube, Wednesday on Facebook. My email address is down in the description area. If you want to send me other topics you would like to see, go ahead and do that. And also, if you can't find me on Facebook, send me an email, and I'll make sure you get the link with that. All right, guys. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. That's perfectly okay. Hope you're doing well. Good to be back. And tomorrow on Facebook, and back here again on Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, for that. I'm going to end the broadcast. If you're watching the recording, thank you so much. Jump into the live chat and say hi to everybody. So, until next time, take care, folks.